Vi går rakt in i våra presentationer och vi har valt att i enkelhetens namn köra det i alfabetisk ordning efter land. Så vi börjar således med Lars Klüver som är direktör för Danska Teknologirådet. En organisation, både Lars och organisationen har över 30 års erfarenhet av deltagande och särskilt då deltagande i teknologiutvärdering, teknologianalys, ganska tunga, komplexa frågor. Hur får vi med oss medborgarna i det? Och särskilt har de jobbat internationellt med klimat, energi och miljöfrågor. Så välkommen upp Lars, vi ska få upp ditt bildspel.
Så, då lämnar vi ord och bild till dig Lars. Varmt välkommen.
Jag har faktiskt en stuga i Småland. Jag pratar en bit svenska. But I will speak in English because I'm not that good in Swedish. And I think it makes sense if you understand what I'm saying. So yes, I'm Lars Klüver. I'm from the Danish Board of Technology. We have been working with public participation for 30 years, since the mid of the 80s. And with public participation, we basically think of not one method. I will come back to that. Many methods. A whole methodology, actually, in which you try to examine a problem. You find out how is the problem, what is the political situation, which kind of results is it we want to get, what is it actually that can be acted on politically, and then from that we choose a method. And that means that we have a wide toolbox of methods, and I hope that this presentation will give an insight into that. The Danish situation is that we had the first major citizen engagement activity in 87. I was lucky to be the project manager of that one myself. A so-called consensus conference on industry, gene technology in industry and agriculture. And this method developed into some kind of an international hotspot for public participation, because it showed that citizens were actually capable of dealing with very complex issues if a process was put nicely together, so that they got the needed information, they got the chance to think it over, and they got the chance to really express what they felt. And I think that has been a push to much public participation in this world. There were, after 87, there were all over the world summing up examples of this, and this became what is now called the participatory turn that we can see in many places. We've been doing public participation for the parliament for many years, developed several methods, as I say, and also, as Edward said, we've trying to import that together with the UN to the global level as well. But I will stay in this presentation on the municipality and regional level. And I'll give you some examples. The first one is an approach that we made, which is basically the same approach that all of you have tried in a workshop. We have some ideas, we cluster them, we prioritize which of them, these clusters we want to work with, then we specify the idea, and then in the end we prioritize. But this method, the citizen meeting, is basically made so that it can be done with an unlimited amount of people if you have a room which is big enough. So it's a way of gathering many people and making a structured ideation process during one day, and deliver the results, printed and everything, to the mayor at the end of the day. We have used this for many times. I've just mentioned some of them here. Randers Kommune, that's the one you can see on the picture, had to develop it at the end of 21 strategy, which had backup in the population, sustainability plan for farm, child and youth policy, climate strategy for the Zealand region, local democracy development in Ballerup Kommune. So that's one approach, ideation, getting knowledge from the citizens, transform that into input for strategizing. Can be done with, for example, this method. This example is about conflict management. It was Aalborg Kommune in which there was a school for disabled and special care children. And there, in this school it was found that there was PCB, a very, very dangerous building material that was used at a time when those things were ignored. And that school had to be abolished. And the municipality had to do something, and what they wanted to do was to move all the children to another school and expand that school with modern facilities for these kind of children. But it became a rage among the parents, and there was a real conflict with demonstrations in front of the town hall, and you know what can happen when things get heated. What we did was we interviewed the parents. We found out which kind of opinions are in play here, and we found that they didn't fit. The parents didn't agree, but the parents didn't know. So what we did was that we made an evening dialogue meeting where the parents across the whole Aalborg Kommune with these children were put together in mixed group, and we asked them to come up with suggestions for solutions that the municipality could use. And they ended up finding out that they didn't agree. They actually, there were just as many suggesting all the solutions possible. I mean, they were evenly distributed among the solutions, which basically ended up with the politicians being free to take the choice that they needed to take. A choice should be taken. And so I think this is a situation where we often see that a group of citizens have a special position, they make a lot of noise, but what we find when we dig into it, then they do not necessarily have backup from the whole of the population. So this is, you could say, political crisis management in making it visible for the citizens themselves that actually they do not agree internally, and they have to accept that a political decision has to be taken. So it's a little rude, but it's also necessary to show to people if they agree or they do not agree on the opposition they are making. This example is about local planning with co-creation. It's on Fyn, the little island in the middle of Denmark. In that there were two villages, Tommerup and Tommerup Stationsby. From the old times when there was a village and then the train came past and then there was a new village built around the train station. So there were two Tommerups. And they had to be integrated because this was one of the development areas in Fyn. It's close to Odense. It's a very popular place, very nice place. So there was potential for development in that area. And the municipality found that these two should be merged and they should be expanded. But it was not possible to do that top down because these two villages, they had each of their cultures, and they really enjoyed not to agree on anything. So what we did was we simply made a co-creation workshop with both villages in it, and what we said to them was, well, come on. In 50 years, they will anyway grow together, these two villages. Look a little ahead and then begin now to come up with suggestions of how you want them to grow together. And they did that, and the municipality simply said, we need to listen, we need to do this. We need to have some ownership. So it quite heavily influenced the development plan for the two Tommerups. And now they have, the two Tommerups have not two, but one citizen work group that speaks with the municipality. So this actually, you could say, gave some empowerment, but it also gave some ownership to the decisions, which were very close to being taken top down. And that would not have been a very good solution in this situation. Another one is Allerød Kommune. It's a commune in north of Copenhagen, and it was developed very much in the 60s. A lot of small villas were made. They were not necessarily very well built. So it is one of the areas where there is the need for a lot of refurbishment, and there are a lot of elderly women living in very big houses, not that good houses. And at the same time, of course, there are less and less children. So they are in danger of closing a lot of schools. And then the elderly women will disappear over time. And young pairs will move in with a lot of children. And then they have to build schools again. And the opposite happens with elder care houses. You have to build a lot of elder care houses, and then later they will have to tear them down or change them into schools. So they had a demographic problem, and this was simply taken up together with the citizens in a small citizen summit. We made a representative sample of citizens. They went through a full day with different sessions, where they worked at tables like you're sitting there. They worked with different issues around this development. What makes Allerød attractive for people who should move into Allerød? What are our leisure facilities? What is the problem actually about? And they ended up voting on developing different possible actions, political actions, and voting on them. And a very important action was that they said, although we know that the municipality has economic problems, you have to build some, we call them common social apartments. And basically you have to build at least 1,200 apartments so that young pairs can move in 5 years. Because these young pairs will then move into Allerød, and they will then be able to move into the houses when the elderly women move, and then we can flatten out the demographic curves. This is an example for me of something which I think, of course, could have been invented in the municipality council as well. But then again, it would have been top-down, and it would have been an investment that the municipality needed to borrow money for, which would not necessarily be popular in a quite conservative municipality. So the fact that the citizens were invited, they came up, they had ownership, and they came up with a solution which there would probably even not have been a majority for in the municipality council. The fact that this happened suddenly released the municipality council to take a decision which they could have quite some anxiety if they had taken it themselves, alone. So this is a good example of that the worst political decisions ever made are those that are not made. And in this situation, it suddenly released the politicians to take the decision they actually should take, but maybe didn't dare to take before. Participatory budgeting is not a method, it's actually at least 5 different approaches. We have used some of them. I think this is something that has come to stay. I think the future that is a place where public participation will never disappear. I think that this is one of the ways people can get more influence into the political life, which they want. Without necessarily being voted into the council, and what we have used is a citizen summit kind of methodology, a representative selection of citizens coming into a room in one evening, getting a lot of potential budgetary choices, and selecting among them. Maybe we even have, in the beginning, an ideation process where the citizens can come up with their own. We can also make a collection of ideas over the internet beforehand, so that some of the things they voted on are things that are invented by the citizens themselves. We've done that in Farum and Billund Kommune with great success. Here we have the mayor of Billund Kommune saying to television that this is certainly something they will continue with, and they have done it since then. Sønderborg Kommune in the southern of Jutland, close to the German border, they have made the Brazilian solution where citizens can create ideas for investments, and then the municipality puts out a pool of money, which the citizens basically can apply for to use. So this is another way of attacking the participatory budgeting issue. This is an area I would really recommend you to look into, because, as I say, this has come to stay, and it will only expand the whole idea of participatory budgeting. Regional development plan. In Denmark, the regions have regulated to make development plans, which means something for the investment in growth. It means something for the physical planning and everything. And one of the critics that have been done is that these are made in quite closed bureaucratic systems. And there's this new development that as part of these processes now, some of the regions are beginning to open up to get some prioritization made by the citizens, to get some arrows into the future of what we want to head for. So, and we have used the Citizen Summits meeting for this. Citizen Summit is a meeting based on a representative sample, typically during a day or a long evening. You go through different sessions. Each sessions are started with some information on the topic. Then the citizens discuss the topic at tables, and at the end of each table, each session, they vote on different alternative solutions to the problem. And we did that for the regional development plan in Jutland, northern Jutland. And they decided simply to take the top 10 recommendations and implement them in the regional planning. So it was quite a strong implementation of the results. As one thing I will go into, it will be brief, because in a few minutes it will be 1 minute, a little time. This is the mayor of Kalundborg. He's saying the citizen council the municipality council could never have done this alone, and we would never have dared to do it. What was he speaking about? This is Denmark now. This is Denmark with a 100 years event in IPCC's worst scenario, 10 meters over 1 day increase. So just to see, that's a little different, isn't it? I don't know, there's a pointer here? No. Oh, anyway. Kalundborg is just over my finger here. So it looks like this. What we did was we made 3 scenarios together with farmers, politicians, civil servants, commerce and industry, citizens, about how to deal with climate adaptation in Kalundborg. These scenarios were tested by the National Geological Surveys and a consultancy firm for economy and feasibility. And then there was a second workshop with the same participants where they refined their scenarios. Then we made this citizen summit you saw the picture of, in which they had pointed out the different alternative solutions that could be used in climate adaptation. And the citizens discussed them from different principles and ended up coming with some solutions. Just to mention one, at the top of the lower picture, there's a little arrow there. You can see there's a summer house area. One of the ideas was to build a dike outside. And everybody said, we don't want a dike. We didn't buy these summer houses to look at a wall 3 meters high. So we wanted to see the ocean, actually. So what they suggested instead was that over time, the municipality would buy land up on the hill, and these houses, summer houses, as they got older, could be moved, and when they would be teared down, they could just move uphill. Smart trick. And that's what the citizens came up with. The politicians came up with a dike. That's not. One thing that you never stop any municipality in doing public engagement in their work is methods. Don't ever come up with the argument that it cannot be done. It's a new development and it's still developing. We don't have the methods. That's not true. We have the methods. Edward and I were in a project where we collected methods from all around the globe. This was for science and research, And we have a tool there for selecting these methods. There are 57 mother methods, we call them, with a lot of variants behind. They're well described, they're well tested, they're proven, they work. They even travel well. If you develop a method in Denmark, it works well in Japan. We also know that citizens are capable. There's no reason not to have trust in the citizens. They can do it. They can do the work. And I also think that there is now engagement professionals which can tailor-make a method for, I would say, nearly any situation. I also think, and I will show that after lunch, that we are beginning to be able to make online tools which can be used at meetings like this, so that there's some internet part of a meeting, but also can be used real online. So this is beginning to work. Where are we now? For the Danish municipalities, I would say, we are in a situation where the municipalities are definitely being better at co-creating the bureaucratic work with citizens. So if you want to expand your house, there's a very good dialogue with the neighbor and with the house owner, and it goes in a totally different way than it did just 10 years ago. If you want to build something in the football club and you want to expand that or something, the neighborhood dialogues are much better now than they were before. I think we have many good examples of practice. I think we have some who go really serious into it. We also have municipalities who haven't touched it at all. So it's a very mixed picture in Denmark, but I think it's moving. Things are moving towards more and more engagement. What is lacking, and we can discuss this later in panel discussion and everything, is mainstreaming. And what is lacking as well is the use of this in strategizing, in making strategies and political developments together with the citizens. So actually, what is lacking is courage. Thank you.
Ja. Tusen tack Lars. Vi ska ge möjlighet till någon liten kort fråga. Inledningsvis här, det du beskriver från några exempel här, det är ju väldigt komplexa och rätt svåra frågor som man vill diskutera med medborgarna, klimatförändringar och så vidare. Ibland möter man ju att vi som finns inne i den kommunala apparaten så att säga, vi kanske inte tror att de är så smarta där ute. Hur ska vi komma över det här att verkligen se att det finns mycket kunskap och våga öppna oss?
I will continue. You will ask in Swedish and I will answer. If you gather in Denmark, and it's the same in Sweden, if you gather 200 to 300 people in a room, then you have a certain amount of CEOs, you have a certain amount of very well-trained workers who have been had changed position for a long time. You have a certain amount who have been working at policy level in football clubs and local engagement in a labor union. You have some lectors and professors of university. You have people who are disabled. You have people with so much life wisdom and education. It's an enormous resource. And they are actually able to split that at the table when you sit them. They're able to educate each other in a very short time, and they're able to use and respect that education. That's that mutual exchange that happens. So I think there is a little tendency that whenever we meet in a room, 10 people, then we think that those outside the room are a little more stupid than us. Yeah. And that also counts for, I'm sorry to say, municipality councils. That they have a little tendency to think that the population it's not stupid, but it's not very wise as well. I think that is only a matter of process. If you give them the right process, then you find out how wise they are. They are very wise.
Thank you. Har vi någon som har någon? Snabbt där nere har vi en...
Jag fyller på i samma ämne. Finns det någon grupp då som ni inte når på det här sättet? Är det någon grupp som faktiskt inte gör sig hörd? Någon som faktiskt det politiska måste lyfta fram extra mycket?
Yeah, of course there is. We have language problems with integration. We have also people who are not that resourceful, so weak people in general for different reasons. My own thinking about that is that it might be worse to force them into a process that they're not able to actually manage than to keep them out. That's one thing. So you sometimes have to take a tough decision that we're maybe more violent to them or forcing them into or pressing them to get into these processes than actually let them stay away. I also think in a democracy it's also a sort of participation to stay away. We also have to accept that. But I think if we really want to listen to the weaker parts of the population, then we have to make special processes for them, and that's possible.
Vi får säga tack till dig så länge, Lars, och så återkommer vi och funderar nu på fler frågor som ni kan ställa när Lars finns med i panelen och i smågruppsdiskussionerna.